what's important. All right, so I'm going to introduce Bob and Jim as our presenters. They're going to talk to you about their excellent adventure on Hamvention.
So yeah, and Jim's already hiding, so there you go.
Where are we going?
Anywhere right here.
That thing is pointed this way. I think maybe if we do that.
How's that, Stephen? We good?
I can hear Bob. Jim was a little loose.
How, Jim?
Hello, radio.
Okay, good.
All right. Well, Jim and I and our wives, Barbara and Julie, made the expedition to Hamvention in May. So yeah, this is NCOJW and W0HTH's excellent adventure to Hamvention, and Barbara and Julie too. And it is a Grump and Plump production.
Can you figure out who's Grump and who's Plump?
So Hamvention was May 19th to the 21st. And it was in Xenia, Ohio, but you'll hear a lot of Ham folks saying, well, I'm going to Dayton. And Xenia is just outside Dayton. So Dayton Hamvention, and what I have, and Jim has one too, is we brought the brochure along that you get at Hamvention. And I got a couple of slides on that. But if you really want to look through everything, you can look through those afterwards. The semi-express itinerary. Bad point of Hamvention, it's the weekend after Mother's Day. So in order for me to maintain, hopefully to 52 years of marriage, we didn't leave until Monday. So on day one, it's about a 6-hour drive to Salina, Kansas. Me being a poet idiot, did a activation, and my wife read a book. Day two, we went on to St. Louis, another 6-hour drive. And at 72 years old, 6 hours, depends how many restroom stops.
Yeah.
So day three is about St. Louis. The last leg, you go from St. Louis to Xenia in another 6 hours. And then you have Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at Hamvention, and then you can come home. You young folks could probably do it in a day and a half.
Now, the NCOJW and K0BE train left on a Saturday, drove to Concordia, Missouri, then from there to Columbus the next day, and spent the night in Columbus. Then I was born in Northeast Ohio, so we wanted to visit some of the old haunts in Northeast Ohio, spent 3 days up there, then went back and spent 3 days in Xenia at Hamvention.
Yeah.
And
we'll get more into like that tourism stuff.
And then from there, back to Kansas City to visit some friends, and then on into Colorado Springs. So it was a little less on the road than Mr.
Yeah, and we'll get some more details on what you can do if you're retired. So before you go, we really recommend you get your tickets ahead of time. You can buy them online. You get a discount of like $4 or whatever. But the big key is, and the red laser won't work on that. You don't stand in line waiting to get your ticket when you get to the fairgrounds. Friday,
How much were tickets?
$26 if you get them in advance.
All right.
And this is your ticket.
And you can make a donation to the Boy Scout, Girl Scouts, Future Farmers of America, whoever's there, and get it laminated and get a nice laminate.
$5.
So $26 for all 3 days. Yeah, all 3 days. Yeah. And I got a ticket for my wife too. She's not licensed, and we'll get into that later. Make sure you have rain gear, mud gear. We had beautiful weather this year, but everybody said, wow, the tradition is we have rain. And if you ever Google Hamvention, you're going to see mud up to your knees. And then sun protection, sunscreen, hats, that good stuff. Of course, you'll be in between buildings. You'll see that in a second. Lodging accommodations sell out fast. We fell in love with the place we're in this year, and Barbara and Jim are staying there next year, so we already have our reservations there. And we'll show you some information on that. Parking on site, they have tremendous amount of parking, and they do have golf carts running around to get you back. There's shuttles, like I said, with golf carts, or if you have somebody with a handicap sticker as a friend, you get to park pretty close. And Xenia High School parking is where Jim parked, and they have a shuttle bus from there. So if you do have rain, that may be a better choice because you're not in the mud.
The DARA, the Dayton Amateur Radio Association, really pushes remote parking. Okay, because you never know in Xenia, Dayton, if it's going to rain. The parking at the facility is all grass.
Yeah.
And if they have the normal rain that they do for Dayton, you're going to sink up to your axles in that parking lot. So the Xenia High School parking lot is a big, huge asphalt parking lot with regularly running buses back and forth to the event.
And we highly recommend you have a shopping list or a want to see list. ARRL does have their events app, and there we go. They have a list of all the exhibitors, so that's in this brochure here. And what I did is I just kind of circled which ones I wanted to see and make sure I went to those booths. So, I mean, that's, from NOAA and A to Y, they don't have any Z's up there, but plenty of things to see in the buildings. There is also forums, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Important that I wanted to see was Parks on the Air. And unfortunately, we were still touring on late Thursday. We didn't make it in time to get there. But if you're there on Friday, and actually a guy that hunted me on POTA from Kentucky, we started texting back and forth so we could hook up, and we couldn't find each other on Friday. So, I mean, you can make friends along the way. So welcome to Dayton Hamvention in Xenia, Ohio. All right. Amateur Radio Association hosted it, the Dayton Club, and they have 33,000 attendees this year. And two guys from Switzerland were in the same hotel bed and breakfast that we stayed in. So you can address that now. Right, figure this out.
Yeah, we went away.
Yeah, that worked.
Where's your at? Trying to find things here. There we go. So that's the Dayton Club website. I will email this presentation without the photos to Stephen to post on our website. So all the web pages, links, you can just get off the presentation. All right, so that's Dayton Ham Radio Club. That's the club van. See, their van. Pretty neat. But go ahead.
If you do the math at $26 per person and 33,000 people there, you can see the income that that club has. Now, of course, they're going to have to spend money to rent the Greene County Fairgrounds and whatever contribution they have to make to the Xenia first responders, police department, etc. But in addition to that $26 that they get to individuals, they sell flea market space, and we'll see that in just a minute. And there's additional income there. And the vendors, of course, have to buy their space in the facility. So you can see the amount of money that changes hands there. And if you go on that website, you'll see their meeting room. And it's incredible, the layout that they have purchased, the building. What was it? It was a 4,000
It did a 4,000
square
square
foot
foot addition.
addition to their original thing, and it is just a beautiful facility. There's kitchens and picnic areas, and of course, there's a whole console full of radios that they work. You can see on.
And they have open house.
They have an open house there.
So you can go see it.
And I think they got about a 60-foot tower there with their repeater antennas on it and tri-band beam and all sorts of stuff. So if you ever want to increase the size of WTLM, have a Hamvention here.
And then this is the actual Hamvention website. You see it, tickets, awards, volunteers. And all that kind of stuff.
Bob, do you have some questions maybe down in the chat? I said there's some.
No, those were there before.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, please save your questions till later.
Just read. Zoom. I think you just minimize the Zoom so you don't back up. Like at the bottom,
No, this is right there.
It's not on my screen.
just the,
Bye, Steve. Oh,
when you minimize, I think you did it. Oh, then after the bottom there should be.
Yeah, but that's not on my screen.
Right, I already got mine under control.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
I need Zoom go right now.
Yeah,
Have magical powers. There, everything.
there it is. There's-
There's a topic for you. How to use Zoom.
There we go. How to use Microsoft.
There we are. All right. There we go. All right. So that's the facility. There.
has anybody ever been to the old Dayton at Hera? Okay, and
May it rest in peace.
yeah, you don't have a sewer problem here on the entrance. It's a beautiful facility compared to the Hera Arena, which towards the end, you guys know, was falling down, and the tornado finally took it down. But
So this is kind of downtown Xenia. And then this is the main road coming in. You can see traffic. And then they have handicap parking come in at gate 8. And we'll talk about how to tune in and all that stuff to get radio instructions where to go. And you come in and the handicap parking's right in here. So make friends with somebody who has a handicap placard. And this is the line for tickets. That's why you want to get them online.
Forgot Bob. Uh-oh.
if you have tickets, you go right straight in there.
Is there a limit to the like percentage of tickets they'll sell online, or will they just sell all of the tickets?
They sell tickets online up until a cutoff date, and the tickets are mailed to you. And I think they will do will call after the cutoff date. And I don't think there's any limit. They'll jam everybody in there that they want to pay for a new clubhouse, I'm sure.
So these are the exhibition halls here. This is where they do those presentation seminars. And this is the flea market. Okay. And this is mainly just pictures of what we did on our summer vacation, so you'll get better at that, but you kind of get a concept of the size of everything.
For all you YLs out there, this is the good bathrooms right here.
They do have a sufficient number of porta johns. And then this area here is the food court through there.
So that's the fairground.
Yeah, that's the Xenia or Greene County Fairgrounds. So Greene County Fairgrounds. Yeah, it's still there. Okay. That's everybody out in the food court in good weather. Pork chops. Yeah, Jim, I see ya. Oh, no, that wasn't you. You know, as we're texting back and forth. So do have adult beverages, maybe enough picnic benches. You can tell everybody likes Louisiana Grill. Our first stop, homemade ice cream.
Nice.
And Jim says, well, we're eating ice cream sitting on the bench. I go, we're in line for ice cream. So, and then my first stop after ice cream was Wolf River Coils, because that's who I wanted to see. So there you go. Oh, stop sharing. So hopefully that's up on Zoom. But that was my first stop, was Wolf River Coils. Me being as frugal as I am, I wanted, this is a $15 part from Wolf River, so I have 20 meter, 40 meter here, and now 20 meter antenna, like that. $15, and it was $15 shipping. So
So you drove.
as Vanna would say, you know, so I didn't want to spend $15, and if you go to most suppliers' websites, they'll say we'll be at Hamvention booth number 145632110-4. So that's why you need this. And that was my first stop. Spend $15, save $15 in shipping. Except for the gas.
Except for the gas. You use
Hotel.
Family vacation. And that's not the point. You'll make somebody a good wife someday. Like going elk hunting. So I saved my $15, but by, hey, this is brand new later and $185, I got out of Wolf River Coil. We're probably going to websites they have to stop share and reshare. There we go. Okay. So much for that. Back to the old days. Next slide, please.
What is it, spacebar? Okay.
There we go. Okay, so this is kind of inside. Tower Electronics was there. Obviously, they sell common antennas. They had every little knick-knack thing you can imagine that you want to buy, from $2 to $2 million, whatever's in your budget. And then Diamond Antenna is there. And Diamond Antenna had their vice president of sales at the table, right, Jim?
Yeah, very nice lady.
And Jim and I were having a discussion at that table as to what type of antenna mount to put on my roof rack for the Cadillac Escalade.
At which point Bob attacked my vehicle.
Wait a minute, no, that's not. You were telling me what type of antenna mount you had on the Honda, and I said, well, mine's a Cadillac, so I got a better deal than you had.
See?
And then you said,
Well, I went on and said a few things, and we're going back and forth and back and forth.
and I said, you lowly advanced, and the vice president of sales for Comet Antenna says, wait a minute, I gotta get popcorn for this.
And continue to watch us spar. She had more fun than we did.
So this is just a snapshot. This is off the ARRL website. Here are little booths. Here is the ARRL. They had a massive display, tons of people there all over. Anything you want to know about the ARRL was there. From the publications end to testing to getting young hams involved, students on the air, whatever. They did a great job and a great display.
I think as you remember the initial picture we showed of the buildings on the left-hand side, they were the second building, the middle building, and they took up the majority of that building. It's
Huge display. DX Engineering. Very, very impressive display. $300 later. No shipping. I got a hat. I got antennas that you can make. It can be a cord winder. It could be a dipole, whatever you want. But they had very large area again, just like the ARRL. I was interested in the crimping set, so I went over and Jim and I were talking to a gentleman. He spent what, maybe good 15 minutes, 20 minutes with us, asking what do I want to crimp, what do I want to repair, how do I want to do it, do I want it portable, do I want it specifically on my workbench. And like I said, $300 later, I found something. And
this area here, they had very knowledgeable salespeople all through this area that you could talk to. And you decided what you wanted, you wrote it on a piece of paper. And is it back over there, Bob?
Right by you, right where those guys stand.
Yeah, right here. They had 10 order takers there with computer screens and keyboards and everything. And if you made your selection, you just went over and purchased it. And they were so organized that they had their computer screens on swivels where they could swivel it where you could see it and they could see it and you could verify your order. Very, very organized. It was impressive. Now, some of the other companies, and not to knock them, they would have a long counter, and to try to get help is like trying to get a drink, a last call drink. You're hollering and screaming, "Hey, me, I'm gonna help," and it was very, very organized, very impressive.
I mean, that's their just again part of their display that they had. And Jim made a purchase there also.
About $350 of that.
Yeah. And you got a telescoping antenna,
And it's almost up.
almost. And then we went by the ASU folks, and down the end, I'm interested in an 891 with the ACAS antenna. Another 20 minutes
At least.
minimum, totally explaining everything about the ASU 891, how to work an ACAS antenna that works with it. That's an automatic tuning antenna. So as you switch bands and frequencies, the antenna magically goes up and down.
It's equivalent to a screwdriver antenna.
Yeah.
That interfaces with all of their mobile and a few of their base radios.
And the gentleman we were talking to says, well, when you buy this, if you have any problems, here's my card. You don't need it because when you call to get tech support, I'm the guy you would have talked to.
He was incredibly detailed with us. And
He's an engineer.
just was
Not a history major, obviously.
he didn't feel rushed. It was a very pleasant experience.
Yeah.
And this guy works at Cerritos, I
Yeah.
think is where it is, in that technical department, and took all that time to discuss that information with us.
With a history major. And a lowly advanced. And then my wife was texting back and forth and called me and said, where are you guys? I said, well, we're over walking around. I said, where are you? She was by the electric something. Elecraft. And that's where we found my wife and Barbara. We're over there. So Mr. Elecraft was very pleased.
The actual one of the principals of Elecraft, Wayne, was in the booth holding court. And it's very interesting individual. I mean, he and Eric started the company, I don't know how many years ago. And also their engineer who was involved in all of their amplifiers was there. Very knowledgeable individual, very nice. He assisted me on a couple of questions I had on my Elecraft amplifier. Very nice folks, even though they're from California.
Great. I mean, I almost was convinced to buy an Elecraft, but my wife was there.
$4,000 later.
No, that was we're good. We're good.
You get out of there for $4,000, you're doing well.
And if you're interested in anything MFJ has, they also had several tables. Just, I mean, as you can see, you need the shopping list before you get there.
Was Martin there?
I didn't see him.
I stopped in at their factory one time, and they gave, the plant manager gave me a tour of the whole manufacturing facility.
Mississippi, is it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Oxford, yeah.
Yeah.
Or Starkville.
Yeah.
It was about 30 miles from Mississippi. And they take me into Martin's office. Shakes my hand like a long lost cousin.
And that's exactly how they are here at Hamvention. I mean, you're like I said, the VP of sales for Comet, Mr. or Diamond, Mr. Elecraft was there, you know. It's you get to meet the people. So if you have questions about products or anything, no matter what, there's the right people there. And then, like, we were impressed with DX Engineering, and we went around to a couple other vendors that we were interested in purchasing from, and Jim and I just kind of looked at each other and go, wow, the product here does not look as good, you know, you could tell was more flimsy material than what DX Engineering had. I said, I guess we went back to DX Engineering. We did. So, I mean, it was $30, $40 more than this other product, but just craftsmanship, quality of the crimper.
Well, you know, Tim has to support his antenna farm, you know.
Yeah.
It's, what is it, Tim Duffy, I think is
I think, yeah.
K3LR has an QRZ, and his his antenna farm is just incredible to look at, but he's the head honcho of DX Engineering, which is really a small portion of the company.
Yeah.
Summit
Summit
Racing
Racing.
Parts is their main,
Yeah,
you know, and they're huge. I mean, you know,
Summit
you
Race.
watched the drag race from Bannerman the other day, and it's all Summit parts. So if you go to Talmadge, it's Akron area,
Yeah,
and go in it, it's Summit Racing and DX Engineering has its little corner of the Summit Racing.
and if you order anything, when it's shipped, it's from Summit Racing. And I go, wait a minute, I'm not ordering any more ATV parts from them. So then you can go outside the building, and this is where all the mobile setups are at. A little bit of antenna envy there. A lot of antenna envy.
Oh, my.
And they travel with that that is permanent. It does not come off. And they're from New Jersey. So you can imagine what the Jersey kid said to them.
I'm fairly confident I've seen a picture of that vehicle on the internet. The way they fold it up is really cool.
It's called the Rover. It's the Rovers. I've worked them on POTA. They've worked me. And then again, this is a little close up of the Dayton Amateur Radio Association van. I texted that to Tricia, said, "We need this." and maybe what she sent back was kind of illegible. So I sent that picture to Barbara and said, "What do you think about this in the budget?" A little smaller, but we could have the ham van. Again, when do you want to go eat lunch, Jim?
No later than about 11:30, because everybody goes at noon, and the lines are incredible. So we learned very quickly to go eat before 11:30.
And then there's the possibility while you're walking around the show, you may get an email, you may get a text from a friend who says, "I have this Collins stuff. Can you look for me if they have this Collins YCXY1234?" So I turn the corner and the Collins Collector Association. I'm saved. They don't have anything there. You see the empty table and the little guy, join the club. I don't do Collins. So they hand me this. This is the date, the dance card. So this is the inside booths here. And these are the Collins people out in that flea market. So I love the guy, he's a good friend, but he needs to go to Hamvention.
Did you make your reservations that morning?
We're not mentioning any names.
I've broken the news in a way.
But I mean, they got everything that you want is out in the flea market. So that's available. And here's just part of the flea market as we were walking around. And they have the little POTA guys there. So you can get your handy dandy Parks on the Air activator name badge, complete with your call sign, and an official POTA lanyard. And you could walk down, and that was reasonably priced. I don't remember because
I think they were all $5 anytime
something
we
like
did
that.
that.
Or I'm not sure because my edition came up to like $80 worth of stuff I bought at the POTA. And I said, "Do you take cash?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, okay." He says, $50. All right. Because I bought 2 signs that were $15 each. So I said, "Well, that's a deal." So I gave him my $50 and walked away with him. Jim and I were doing the edition with actually about $95 worth of stuff for $50. So I don't know where he put the $50 bill, but I got this neat stuff. And then you can walk around to more of the flea market, and you can find club from somewhere, I think they were in Ohio, who made up a name badge for $5, but they also put your license on the back. So if you notice your FCC license that you're supposed to carry, so now I'd be legal. Anybody challenges me when I'm out doing a phone activation or whatever. And Jim has friends that we were spent 3 hours looking for here in the
Oh, it was 45 minutes.
We're with Jim, it seems like. And Jim knows everybody there. A few people. So here's this. I mean, this is a back of somebody's van. They have all this equipment. But if you notice, it says pre-estate sale because I'm not dead yet. So according to my wife and daughters, my extensive military radio collection doesn't match the new home decor. And there are strange antenna restrictions in the neighborhood. Please feel free to ask any questions and don't hesitate to make offers. Do you see a phone number up there? Do you see an email address up there? Okay, I'm just saying. And souvenirs.
If you want your t-shirts, get them the first day because
Friday.
all of these shirts were gone by the end of Friday. With just a few exceptions, like, extra large.
Small. So accommodations, again, reserve early. We stayed at the Hearthstone Inn in Cedarville, Ohio. It was about a 15-minute drive. The next 3 websites, one is the Hearthstone Inn, one is the Dayton Convention Visitors Bureau, and the last one is greencountyohio.org. So hopefully we'll see how.
One of the advantages of Cedarville is it is east of Xenia. And the majority of folks are in Dayton, west of Xenia. So when you come in the morning, you have a lot less traffic coming in from the east side than you do from the western approach. And on Friday, not to knock the local police department, but they're not terribly organized the first day in directing you in. Friday, the backups were immense getting in. Saturday, they had it figured out and you sailed right in. So, it's just every year it's a little different in getting in.
How many people did you say were there?
33,000.
Over a 3-day period.
Yeah. So the Hearthstone Inn looks like this nice bed and breakfast. And it is. They purchased this lot 20 years ago. Built the front. There is no elevator, just to let you know. And then there's 10 rooms on the first floor, 10 rooms on the second floor. It's a hotel in the back. Very, very nice rooms, decorated in early American type furniture, a lot of Amish furniture, because it's Amish country. And the mattresses were handmade by the Amish. So Jim and Barbara are staying there too next year. And the host and hostess at the inn they're great. He's a Civil War reenactor. So all kinds of Civil War memorabilia around. And upstairs, he's got a great Civil War display. And this is actually a bike path that runs along the side. And that's where most of their clientele comes from outside of Hamvention. They have all these bicycle riders that stay there. So,
like any other major event that occurs in an area, hotel room prices are more for that event than they will be the week before. I mean, it's just standard stuff. You go to a NASCAR race and, you know, rooms are 3 times what they should be. And it's a little bit like that at Dayton. It's not as bad as some of the ends, but they do raise the rates a bit.
So I'm not gonna go to the Convention and Visitors Bureau. They give you a lot of information on what to do on there. I think it's $200 a night for our room that we have.
And I
For
think
next
what
year.
regular price was 180.
189, 193.
We were somewhat amazed at the pricing of lodging on the trip. Every year we go, it seems that lodging gets more and more expensive when you get out there. So it's just the cost of doing business, I guess.
So we have good food, good friend. This is Nick's Restaurant. Maybe I should go to their website just to show. We went there Friday night for dinner. Great food. We got there early, maybe 4:35, and the crowd just kept coming. And then we tried to get reservations for Saturday night, and they said, "Oh, we're booked already." So if you are going to Hamvention next year and you wouldn't mind dining with Grump and Plump, well, let us know so we can get reservations, for all of us, because it was excellent food.
Everywhere you go in that area, in Daytona, Daytona, I've been to Daytona so many times. Dayton. I actually one time hit the key to make reservations to go to Daytona, and they were to Dayton. Not a good deal. But anybody in the area, you mention Nick's, and they know it, and they say that is the place to eat in that area.
And they have pizza, burgers, chicken, salads, and real cold Guinness.
And you can see it was 1949, so that's 74 years in business. So they must be doing something right.
What I'm trying to find is the Big Nick.
Only exceeded by In-N-Out, who's been in business 75 years.
Oop, I thought I saw something go by.
There you go. So that's the Big Chick sandwich. So yeah, I mean it is great food to say the least.
Go hungry.
Yeah.
What was the quality of the equipment out in the open area?
It's typical of a flea market, I have a theory about flea markets is that you'll see it on that table this year, and the guy in the next table buys it, and it just keeps moving. Bring it back up. But it's typical. Puts down your money and takes a chance.
Just trying to share on Zoom. It's technically challenging.
Looked like there was RVs parked down there in that main picture for people that camp out there.
Yeah, there are.
So you can rent a space in an RV. Or is it
Yes, they have RV spaces. A lot of them are workers. A lot of them are the flea market people.
I assumed it was mostly like staff.
Yeah. And
One of the theories is you buy a space in a flea market and you get in the facility a little easier, and you have a place to hang out while you're there, and set up your, what do you call them, push-ups and chairs and stuff, so when you get tired of walking around, you got a place to go and sit.
but I mean, and it's $175 for that. And then you have to fill out a form saying what you're going to be selling at the flea market. So they don't want people putting up a picnic tent in a van or, you know, SUV or something. They want you to sell something like a pre-estate sale without a phone number. No contact information. So I'm thinking kind of that guy had a display for his $175. So make it a road trip. Do some POTA, some soda, whatever. My wife and I did the Great Circle route. We went I-70 up and around and through Michigan and back on 80. So we did 9 states in 19 days. Ohio was fun, and that's what Jim experienced.
Yes, indeed.
You can
We'll see some of those experiences in a minute here.
So there's a lot to see on the way. Visit family. My wife has family from Xenia. They used to own a big restaurant there and all. And her cousin still lives on the farm. So on Saturday, her and Barbara went to go visit my cousin and got a farm tour. And you know, just lots to do. I said with us, you know, we did relatives in St. Louis, and then we went to Kentucky, went to the Ark Encounter in Kentucky where it's reproduction Noah's Ark. Then went up to Xenia. Then my wife's from Michigan, so I went to go see family in Michigan. That state up above, that circle, high in the middle and circle. And I had a friend there, had a house on a lake, so we spent some time with them. And then she had a girlfriend from 2nd grade, spent time with, and then did bucket list stuff, POTA, through Michigan, Indiana, Illinois, then the Amana colonies, which is just a German colony type thing. My bucket list, John Wayne's birthplace in Winterset, then on to Nebraska, and then home. So, and all along the way, fortunately, I did POTA activations every day. So I got 9 new states. Oops. So Greene County, Ohio, if you go to that visitor's website, that's the visitor's guide. Amish country, Julie and Barbara are already planning. Is it world's largest cuckoo clock or something?
Yeah, one of the world's largest
See, you can do all kinds of fun stuff. You can go to Dayton.
This is an incredible facility for people who have never been there. It is a world-class aviation museum, and it is free, no charge. We pay for it out of our taxes, but it's free to walk in. We'll see in a minute here. The Memphis Belle has been restored and put on display, and the restoration facility in this museum is top notch. That airplane looks like the day it rolled out of Boeing, and it's, what did we figure the other day? 81 years old.
Yeah, 1941.
And it's a little emotional for me. I had an uncle who flew in the same bomb group that airplane was in. It was the 91st Bomb Group based in Bassingbourn, England. And there is some argument about which airplane in the European theater completed 25 missions first. This normally gets the credit for completing 25 missions with the same crew. Now, other aircraft have completed those 25 missions with different crew, but it is an incredible display. That museum has a group of people that every morning go out and dust the airplanes. And you can see pre-World War II from, you know, the Wright brothers on up to World War II. They have a World War II hangar, and the
Air Force One.
the goblets
Oh,
The
yeah.
Doolittle Raider goblets are on display here. And the story is, I think the Dayton, or somebody gave the Doolittle reunion people 80 goblets for the 80 people who were on the mission. And Doolittle was given a bottle of booze to drink when the last two were alive out of the goblets. And every time one of the raiders died, they turn over the goblets. Now, we don't have a picture of it, but the goblets are there and they're all turned over now with a bottle of booze between the last two. And the last two took a drink. And it's very emotional, this whole World War II. They have World War II, they have Vietnam, they have the Cold War, they have the presidential aircraft, that all the way back to what's called the Sacred Cow, which was Roosevelt's airplane. And they have Roosevelt, they have Truman, they have Eisenhower. They even have the first Aero Commander that Eisenhower flew in. They have the 707, which I forget the military designation, that hauled Kennedy's body back from Dallas. And if you look closely, you can see where they had to cut the door out to get the casket in. You can still see that cut out on the airplane. And every airplane in that place is immaculately restored. It has to be one of the best aviation museums there is. It's got to be every bit as good or better than UVAR Hazy or the Smithsonian. It's something.
And if you go on that website to the Dayton Conventions and Visitors Bureau, there's a museum, because guess where the Wright brothers are from? Dayton. And they have the original field where they tested the Wright flyer out.
But I think Bob and Joyce can correct us, because the Wright brothers were born in Indiana, just across the line from Ohio, and I forget the name of the town, but they were actually, you could go to their birthplace. It's along, what's the Interstate 70 coming into Ohio, is where the Wright brothers were actually born, but they did all of their work in the Dayton area.
And what else is in the Cleveland area?
The Christmas Story House.
Oh,
I
no,
went to VOA first.
yeah. Voice of America. You know, Radio Free Europe back in those days. And over Hamvention week and weekend, they have tours of that. So that's another place for radio geeks to go.
They opened the museum a little bit longer during Dayton. And back behind that Art Deco building, where the antenna field used to be, they still have the matrix. It's a wooden matrix where they went out and manually switched the antennas for whatever part of the globe they wanted to cover. And it's just an incredible thing to see. Plus the Westchester, there's the Christmas Story House. And those of you who have ever lived in the Midwest know the Christmas Story is not a comedy. It's a documentary of what Christmas is in the Midwest.
You're going to shoot your eye out.
Yeah, you're going to shoot your eye out, kid, but his brother is hiding places under the sink, so I had to recreate.
And then Dad gets an award for both of us.
It's a major award, and it's fragile.
Yeah. It's from Italy.
Yes, it's from Italy.
So these are the websites for the National Museum of the Air Force. We saw pictures already. Dayton History Museum they have a Wright Brothers Museum there. Voice of America. And then I have to go, and we'll share this one just for Ms. Barbara. we're flipping through there, but Waynesville, Ohio is where Julie and Barbara went, and it's the antiques capital of the Midwest. And they had fun.
Isn't that the place you ate?
Yep.
That Millard Fillmore ate at?
Yes, yeah, in this building there was, I don't know how many hundreds of years old. And excellent lunch. Amazing strawberry shortcake.
And there's other historic figures that have eaten in this place, but I just remembered Millard Fillmore, who I believe was from Ohio. He's one of the 7 presidents that are from the state of Ohio.
So that was the Hamel House.
Yeah, the Hamilton.
And they have rooms there as well. And that's where Julie and Barbara had lunch, and they were very happy.
Yes.
I can't understand that because we were happy at Hamvention.
So again, these are all the websites for those pictures. And then Yellow Springs, Ohio is just around that bed and breakfast we stayed in Cedarville.
Now, if the time allots, going up towards northeast Ohio, there is a heck of a lot of stuff to see up there. On the way between Columbus and Cleveland, near Mansfield, is an old prison that the Shawshank Redemption was shot at. And you can actually tour that old museum. Mid-Ohio Raceway there, the Amish country is near there. You get up into Northeast Ohio, you have the Pro Football Hall of Fame, the Christmas Story House, the Rock and Roll Museum,
Rock and Roll.
Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. We stumbled across a World War II submarine that you could tour, called the USS Cobb, and those guys are just dying to take you on a tour of that submarine. They will tell you everything imaginable about the submarine, because it's my understanding, you know, they had a crew of 90 in World War II on the submarines, and everybody had to know everything about that boat in case there was injuries and somebody had to fill in. So this guy that took us on a tour was a World War II veteran on a diesel boat. And he took us from one end of that thing to the other and explained everything you can imagine about that boat. And they have recreated as it would go out on a cruise or a tour or whatever the heck you call it in the Navy. Patrol, there you go. And every place you can imagine is cans of food. There's stuff everywhere in that boat, and they have recreated it. And he showed us where he bunked, and you know, he's right up against the hull. Like, you know, there's about that much room where this guy bunked, and it was an incredible thing that we stumbled across at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, right next to Burke Lakefront Airport.
Where he and 2 other people bunked?
Yeah.
All right. So just to recap, next year it's May 17th, 18th, and 19th. We encourage you to buy your tickets online so you don't have to stand in those lines. Get your lodging early because they do book up quick, real close in the local area. ARRL Events app has just about everything that's in the brochure you'll get. The Hamvention website has a list of vendors. So between all of that, you can, you know, really get a shopping list. So you can save $15 in shipping. And, you know, they'll give you information for the talk-in frequency, and they got those mobile signs along the major roads coming in to tune your AM radio to this station. That's how we found the handicap parking. I'm not gonna let Jim talk to him frequently. He forgot his blood pressure medicine. They do have a net, so to speak. And there's a lot of people on it, let's say that.
Is it really a net or is it just a place people go to talk?
It's a net.
It's a net. The problem is amateurs love to talk. They don't necessarily listen very well. And you'll have somebody ask a question about where's handicap parking, and he knows under the answer is no sooner broadcast than the next guy keys up the mic and asks, where's the handicap parking, which indicates that he doesn't listen. And so, you know, sort of typical.
Talking frequency on your car radio is better. There is free parking on site with golf carts to show you, but remember, it is in a grass area. If it's raining, go to Xenia High School, utilize that shuttle, and put Xenia High School in your GPS waypoints. So yeah.
There's, I think, 2 other remote parking facilities too, but we found that to be very easy, very, very easy. They closed down the high school. It's on Friday, and all of the buses for the high school are employed to transport you back and forth to the event, the show.
So Jim and Barbara, I think, were 9 days on the road. We were 19, but it was, you know, family vacation. And for the end of the 50th year that we were married, we had our 51st wedding anniversary in Iowa. So I don't know if you had mine, we did 3,279 miles on our trip. We had a lot of fun. We're still speaking to each other. We're both alive.
We did 3,317.5 miles. It was an absolutely fantastic trip. $300 on gasoline and about what is about $1,000 worth of rooms. So yeah, it's a fair trade-off, isn't it?
Fair trade.
Well worth the $15 saved.
Yeah,
You betcha.
$15.
You betcha.
And most of the vendors you all know, if you buy more than $100 from them, it's free shipping anyway. So
Yeah. And I only wanted to spend $15.
Didn't we say you ended up spending like $180 thing?
But yeah, I mean, those guys at Wolf River Oil are really nice. And we're coming out with this. And did you see this? If you have Wolf River Oil, they now have yellow ground radios instead of white. That was part of it. Anybody any questions or anything? Hopefully you'll consider going to Hamvention, and you can always fly in, rent a car, and fly back home if you want to do that. But thanks for your time and
very good.
All right, that officially adjourns our meeting. Thank you, everybody, for being here tonight.